There's a lot of talk about breaking old patterns in the self-development world. And while it's true that we want to spiral into growth and not feel stuck in the same old loops of suffering, I think it's really important to recognize that we rarely are actually stuck in the same old loops of suffering. It just seems like we are because we're not noticing how things are a little bit different this time. The reason we're not noticing why things are a little bit different this time is because we're fixating on the feeling that we've failed and that something is wrong, instead of being curious as to what the present moment experience actually is. So it's a fear of being stuck in a loop, which makes it feel like we're stuck in a loop. And when we kind of allow that fear to become just a little feature of the corner of our focus and attend instead to what's present, what's interesting, what else is happening, then we realize we're in a spiral, we're not in a loop. So growth is really interesting like this because I don't think a lot of our thoughts about the way it works are helpful. We have these mental models like the ups and the downs, and people talk about the ups and the downs. And so we're inevitably making something negative and positive of a natural fluctuation that life does. If you think about it being lefts and rights or spirals, instead it's like, well, I don't actually know what's going on here. I don't actually know whether this is good or bad. I'm reserving judgment for later. I'm exploring a bit more. What is this? What's going on? Why is it like this? That curiosity isn't just a mystical state you have to access by chance from being in meditation or something. I think you can access that curiosity even when you're feeling really shitty by just acknowledging that nothing is ever the same as it was. Like that's the most self-evident fact ever. Like you don't have to read a book to know that nothing is ever the same as it was. Like everything's changing, and it's just a matter of noticing smaller changes, making a bigger deal of the smaller changes, celebrating them, taking note, talking about them. And that way we can kind of invest our attention in what has changed rather than invest our attention in the idea that things haven't, which is so clearly a lie. That's so clearly not true. It couldn't possibly be true. The only thing that doesn't change is the pure witness. So I think we know this already. This isn't highbrow knowledge. This isn't academic nor highly intellectual. It's actually really, really simple, and it's really, really obvious. And it's simply a case of shifting what we're focusing on towards what else is happening when we feel like we have to solve this issue, which feels like, I'm not growing. What's wrong with me? It's just like, what else is also happening? It's not that we're not feeling shit sometimes. We are, obviously. But what else are we feeling? What else is happening? In this way, we can move from the mode of being where we feel fixated and attached to specific things, gripping, being dragged through life, towards a mode of being which feels like we're connected, but swinging from branch to branch. We're always connected to something, or stepping from lily pad to lily pad, always grounded on something. But the connection is always changing, from one hug and smile to the next, from one breath to the next, always connected but never attached. So yeah, it reminds me of the Bruce Lee thing, be like water. The particles in water, they're all connected. They feel the same undulations. If there's a wave, then they're all going to wave, but the wave passes through and they're not the wave. In the same way, when we're struggling with something, we're experiencing the struggle, but we're not the struggle. There's other things also happening that we're connected to. So yeah, the way we speak about self-development, the language we use, the mental models we use are actually really important. And I think a lot of people who felt quite stuck in their head, or who felt like they've listened to too many people's advice, often shy away from the mental models. They shy away from upgrading their thinking and their language. Like we talk about, I'm overthinking, it's getting too heady. I actually don't think that thinking is a problem. I think that thinking poorly and fixating on only one aspect of the big picture is a problem. When we can zoom out, thinking becomes really helpful. So yeah, sometimes we need to focus more on zooming out before we get into the thinking. And when you're struggling, sometimes thinking about things doesn't help, and you just need a perspective shift. Going for a walk, going for a swim, having a cup of tea, exercising, getting a hug. But what's also true is that when you're feeling good, you should update your mental models so that when you're feeling bad, you don't get caught in this imaginary dynamic of, oh, I'm having a low right now. And you can actually remember, you have the presence of mind and the practice to remember, oh, this is just part of a spiral. This is part of a pattern. There's nothing wrong with me. This is the human condition, because our minds work by recognizing patterns and trying to predict patterns. So I can just be with this and I can see that it's happening even though it's really painful. But it's not bad and painful, you know? It's not wrong and struggle. It's just painful and it's okay. It's just struggle and it's okay. It's not the wrong pain, the wrong struggle, because often it's that thought that something's wrong and that we're not developing and we should be, that causes that pain to stick around far, far, far longer than it actually would if we just accepted, yeah, this is part of the process, even though it's a really uncomfortable part. And even though it's hard to accept, it's here. So why fight against it? So yeah, I'm not saying don't climb out of the difficult situations in life. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a bit of grit, that you shouldn't use some effort and some smart thinking. I'm just saying I don't think you should invest in inaccurate models of reality and what's happening. I don't think you should get too caught up in things that aren't serving you and aren't contributing to your forward momentum and to your processing of these hard times. If a model is getting you stuck and if you feel fixated, then maybe that model's not for you. So explore these when you're feeling good, so that when you're not feeling so good, you have a chance, because trying to do all the work when you're feeling like shit, that's really hard. And that tends to be what a lot of us try to do, to our detriment. So I hope this has helped. Just a quick chat. Hope you're having a good day. Peace. Speak to you soon.